He's lived the last 5 years as Jimmy Moran, but he's really Salvatore Gravano, a mafia hitman known as Sammy the Bull. Tonight, Gravano's in jail for running a major drug ring targeting young Arizonans.
The defendant in this case testified against John Gotti and helped to convict John Gotti and 36 other monsters in trials in the East. He has self-admitted to 19 homicides during his career as a monster. He was under supervision in this state after being released from a federal correctional facility until 1998. In terms of his ability to flee as it might relate to finances, Your Honor, the state is aware that this individual has been able to raise large sums of money that he has used in the purchase of ecstasy. The state is aware of more than one occasion when large sums of money up to about $100,000 came from this individual to purchase dangerous drugs. We don't know in full the extent of his financial resources. We do know that he received money for the sale of a book, Underboss Sammy the Bull, Gravano's Story of Life in the Mafia, a New York Times bestseller. I can't tell you how much money is available to him. At the time of...
You think there is the intention, if there is a complaint filed, to file a direct complaint in the Superior Court?
That's our anticipation is that we will file a direct complaint with the Superior Court, given the court's permission.
Okay. Mr. Gravano, did you want to be heard at least today for purposes of bond?
We talked about a lot of violence. There's no violence in this case that I'm charged with. We talked about something that was in the past, something I cooperated with the government with. There is no violence in this case that I'm charged with, that I'm aware of. And I'm in the community, I'm part of the community, I'm in business. I run a couple of businesses in Arizona. I've never ran from a case in my life. And this is basically, in my history of crime, this is a minor thing. Even if it's proven, which I don't think it could be proven.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Conrad, from the state?
No, Your Honor.
All right. I've considered the state's request for bond, and for purposes of the initial appearance only without prejudice to the defendant raising the issue again, while the charges here are conspiracy to distribute dangerous drugs, it seems to be an extensive amount that are alleged to be involved, but also because of the defendant's prior criminal history and the risk to flee, it's ordered that bond be set in the amount of $5 million, inclusive of surcharges, in a cash bond with, and I agree that there should be a nebia hearing if there is a cash bond to be posted, so that notice regarding the bond be provided within 24 hours if it is going to be posted. It's ordered setting this for preliminary hearing before this court on March the 6th. I count the 10th day being on the weekend, so that's the first day after the weekend, March 6th, and that'll be at 10 o'clock in the morning, subject to the state filing a direct complaint in the Superior Court. And as you know, Mr. Conrad, you have 48 hours from today's date, but the weekends pursuant to Rule 1.3 are excluded. So you would have until, I believe, sometime Monday morning to file.
And Your Honor, with regard to my request that there be no change of the bond, without...
It's ordered that any modification at this time be heard by this division as long as this court is available, otherwise before Judge Martin.
Thanks.
Okay? Anything else at this time?
No.
I take it that Sheriff's Office will take care of fingerprinting and photographing. That's all. Standard recess.
All right.
You be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the initial docket for Maricopa County Superior Court. The two ladies we have in here, Deborah Gravano and Karen Gravano. You both have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you in the subsequent court proceeding. First, Ms. Deborah Gravano, would you come up here, please? You are charged with conspiracy to distribute dangerous drugs. I'm going to set bond in your case in the amount of $2,200. You are to, and if you are released, you will be subject to supervision of pretrial court services. You're not possessing drugs without a valid prescription. And it's your first court appearance. If you're released, you're to bring proof of your current residence to your first court appearance. I'll step to your left. And Karen Gravano? Mrs. Gravano, you are charged with conspiracy to distribute dangerous drugs and possession of dangerous drugs for sale. I am going to release you subject to the supervision of pretrial court services. You are to not initiate contact with the investigating officers or witnesses who do not possess any drugs without a valid prescription, and bring proof of your current address to your next court appearance. Step to the left. Anybody else?
Not yet, no.
Next is State versus Gerard Gravano. Mr. Gravano, your true name is Gerard Gravano. And what's your correct address?
7076 South Cucino Drive, Cincinnati.
All right, you're advising us to notify the court promptly to change that address. This is your initial appearance on one count of conspiracy to distribute dangerous drugs, which is a felony. You have the right to remain silent. You can say anything about your case that your lawyer can be used against you. You also have the right to be represented by an attorney, but if you cannot afford a lawyer, this court will appoint you one free of charge, if you understand that. You have the funds to permission to hire a lawyer. Okay. And you know who that lawyer is going to be yet? You understand if you're based on your own cognizance or a bond, you must promise to appear at the trial. You understand that if you fail to appear, the trial could take place in your absence. And you also understand you're not to leave the state of Arizona without prior approval of the court. How long have you lived in the area?
4 years.
Are you employed right now?
Yes, I am.
Where do you work?
I work for full service.
Okay, and you own any real property in the state of Arizona?
Yes, I do.
Okay, what do you own?
House.
And you can see that the address that you gave me before? Mr. Conrad, if you want to declare a police and this is that Mr. Gravano.
Your Honor, I urge you to impose a bond of $100,000 along with net commission to this particular defendant. This defendant is on probation out of this court for 2 prior felonies. They are for sale of marijuana and for disorderly conduct. During this investigation, it came to light that the defendant was in possession of a weapon, which is of concern to the state. As a prohibited possessor, he will likely be filed with that charge. There are serious felony offenses with which he will be faced. Approximately 10 charges can be now set out, many of which will be offenses for which there is mandatory prison if he is convicted. There is evidence that this defendant is at, well, near the top of this enterprise in terms of sharing the proceeds of these offenses. And given the scope of this distribution network and its enterprise, I think a bond of $100,000 is necessary to secure his appearance.
What are the 2 charges that he's on probation for?
Sale of marijuana and disorderly conduct.
Okay, have you been in contact with Mr. Gravano's probation officer as well?
I have not. I only saw this readout this morning, and he or she is not identified.
Okay, Mr. Gravano, are you on, do you have a probation officer? What's the probation officer? And since you have been on release, according to Mr. Conrad, on 2 drug charges that you're pending arraignment for tomorrow, and now since you've been arrested for the possession of the amount of drugs above the threshold, Arizona law precludes you from being any dangerous drugs without any drugs without a valid prescription. You're not to drink alcoholic beverages and drive without a valid driver's license. And you can continue to reside at the address that you just gave me and provide the corporate proof of current local address. And it's ordered setting this as well for March the 6th at 10 o'clock for a preliminary hearing. The state is to file a complaint within 48 hours today, exclusive of the weekend. So if the state doesn't file a complaint within, by Monday, your case.
A pounding heartbeat, sweating, dizziness, restlessness, dehydrating, and in some extreme cases, death. In August of 1999, the Juvenile Enforcement Squad developed information during the raid party investigation and undercover high school project that Sammy the Bull Gravano was controlling the ecstasy market in Arizona. A subject by the name of Mike Papa, with assistance from Sammy the Bull Gravano's son, Gerard Gravano, daughter Karen Gravano, wife Deborah Gravano, son-in-law Dave Seabrook, controlled the street-level ecstasy operation in the metropolitan Phoenix area and also distributed to several other states. Sammy the Bull Gravano, who has been arrested in this investigation, is the same subject who was the underboss of the gang.
Thank you, Chief. My name is Janet Napolitano. I'm the Attorney General. I'm first going to describe what happened today and where we stand in terms of the legal proceedings with respect to the prosecution of the individuals who have now been arrested. Beginning at about 6:30 this morning, 14 search warrants were served by 7 SWAT teams representing the Phoenix Police Department, the Department of Public Safety, and the Scottsdale Police Department. I want to pause for just a moment here and say we all know what the Phoenix Police Department did yesterday with respect to the New Mexican Mafia, and I don't know very many police departments in the country that can pull off 2 such operations in consecutive days. The operation this morning resulted in the arrest of 35 individuals. There are possible charges and possible arrests of 25 additional suspects. Drugs were seized in sale quantities. The drug amounts are still being measured, so I don't have them for you now. But the drugs seized included marijuana, steroids, ecstasy, and methamphetamine. 17 vehicles were seized, 23 guns were seized. With respect to the individuals who were arrested, of course, the most colorful and the most notorious is Sammy the Bull Gravano. And all I will say about him at this time is that his prior testimony against the mob was not a free pass to peddle drugs to Arizona youth. Of the individuals we are holding, Mr. Gravano received a cash bail amount of $5 million this morning. That means he must post $5 million cash. Mike Papa has a $1 million bond. Gerard, the son, has $100,000. Other associates have bonds ranging from $100,000 to $250,000. Bond hearings are ongoing as we speak with you here today. The individuals are being held on an initial complaint which charges conspiracy to distribute dangerous drugs, a Class 2 felony in Arizona. Penalty for that can range up to 12.5 years, depending on the criminal histories involved. We anticipate that there will be additional charges filed by a complaint on Monday, which is what the law requires, a complaint to be filed within 48 hours, excluding weekends, and then further charges after that, after we finish sifting through all of the evidence that was seized today. Right now, for the next 48 hours, we're going to be engaged in evaluating the evidence that was seized, locating the remaining 25 suspects and placing them before the court for initial appearances, and finishing up on the bond hearings. And at that point, we will proceed with the prosecution process of all the individuals in the PAPA organization. Thank you.
I'm Raffanello. I'm the special agent in charge of the Drug Enforcement Administration for the state of Arizona. I'd like to say how proud I am to be part of the law enforcement community, to be able to put 2 efforts like this together back to back. The organization that we took out today, we feel, distributes MDMA statewide, also has influences in the states of New Mexico and Ohio. Right after a few other words are spoken, we're going to do a short presentation on MDMA, so I'm going to ask you to hold your questions.
Administration, we are very proud to have been a part of this cooperative law enforcement effort. As we all saw in Arizona yesterday, what can truly be accomplished when all agencies in Arizona work together. Many of the same detectives and officers that were involved in yesterday's investigation were also here in the Valley, but also throughout the state of Arizona.
The chairman of the City of Phoenix Public Safety Subcommittee. You know, recently we received an award as being the best run city in the country. But you know something is special about Phoenix? We realize we have problems. We have a problem with an increasing murder rate. We have a problem with methamphetamine use. And as you see today, we have a problem with ecstasy. It's not just a problem in the city of Phoenix, it's valley-wide and in some cases statewide. I think special thanks go out today to Chief Hurt and all the officers of the Phoenix Police Department. Janet Napolitano, thank you very much for all of your hard work. Special thanks to the DEA, DPS, and the other agencies involved. Again, we really believe that we can solve all of these problems that we have. The key is having that task force mentality where everybody works together. Yes.
At your leisure, however you want to roll through it. All of the detectives, the supervisors, and other personnel that worked into the valley, they did undercover operations inside rave parties where they estimate anywhere between 80 and 90% of the teenagers and juveniles that attended these parties were either purchasing, consuming, or selling ecstasy. It's a popular drug right now among the teenagers and the youth that were attending these rave parties. I'm going to let you focus on a lot, but also feelings of the dry mouth.
That are pointed towards this investigation, Commander Timms would be able to better answer for you. But we'll, or maybe the AG, depending on, we'll field them one at a time and have the appropriate person respond.
Commander, could you give us an idea of the role specifically that Sammy Gravano played in this organization?
Mr. Gravano, we believe, was the orchestrator and ringleader of this organization. We believe that the other individuals reported to him and took direction from Mr. Gravano.
Commander, can I ask you, if the problems with this gang assaulting people in the East Valley, did that draw more attention to the spring, or was this the beginning of the timeline in terms of investigation?
Well, actually what happened when we started going into the rave parties and looking at the distribution of who was actually distributing the ecstasy, our investigation led us to the individuals in Gilbert and the White Power Gang and Mike Papa. So from the ecstasy investigation, their identity led us to that, and that's how we made the linkage.
How long has Mr. Gravano been involved in this ring? Did he start it? Did he enter after it already had been established?
We don't know that at this time. We have not been able to establish a timeline on exactly how long that they have been distributing it here in the Valley. It is obvious from the investigation that they had a very strong hold and were the major distributors of ecstasy here in Phoenix.
How much money was Gravano taking in?
Well, again, we don't know exactly, but if you figure that they were distributing 25,000 pills at $25 a piece, I don't have the math in front of me, but you can see that it's quite substantial.
Where were they getting it from?
They were getting it through various sources. They were buying the pills anywhere from $6 to $9, we believe, and so you can see that there's quite a profit margin in it.
Exactly what was his role in this? Was he supplying the funds to buy it? Was he supposedly bringing it in? What was his role exactly with Gravano?
We think not only was he financing it, but he was providing the overall direction and providing guidance to these younger members.
Is there evidence that the devil dogs were used in arms?
Well, we don't know specifically the devil dogs as they're known today, but we do know that the Mike Papa, who was an original founding member of what was then the White Power Gang that evolved into the devil dogs, that they were involved in the distribution, and they distributed down obviously to smaller distributors who distributed at the local rave clubs.
Were they distributing on the Highland High School campus?
We don't know that.
Is there any evidence that we were dealing with white supremacists that I just walked in that used some of the proceeds from the drug sales to fund any hate activities or activities?
We didn't look at that aspect. This was a drug investigation, and we stayed very focused on our objectives. We didn't have an opportunity based on resources, nor did we think that that was our objective at this time. It was focusing on the ecstasy that was being distributed to literally thousands and thousands of students, 18, 19-year-olds in high schools, younger college kids at these rave parties. And as I stated earlier, it's almost like mainstream America. It was affecting There was, it affected everybody, and our fear is the number of kids that were using it, how widespread was it, and we thought that was our main aim, that we had to do something to help protect our youth.
Can you give us an idea what types of places the 14 search warrants were served at today, please?
They were served on apartments, they were served on very large homes, they were served on businesses, predominantly residential type structures, I think 2 businesses.
Scattered throughout the valley?
Most of them were geared in the East Valley locations.
Are you somewhat surprised, given Gravano's background, that he would be dabbling in ecstasy?
I have to admit we were kind of surprised when the investigation led us that way. You know, we had no idea when we started in the rave parties where we were going to go with it and who was orchestrating it. And when we found out, yes, we were surprised.
Did Gravano make any kind of statement regarding his surprise or busting him?
He made no comments whatsoever.
Mr. Malacco, can I ask a legal question regarding Mr. Gravano? This is a plea bargain.
Excuse me, before you go to your question, Chief John Brewer, the chief in Gilbert, is here, and he could answer.
In fact, why? Is this a increasing drug? What is its use?
Since 1998, we began tracking it in the early 90s, but the real proliferation, if you will, for MDMA started in 1998. Just yesterday, our New York Field Division, in conjunction with our Providence Field Division, took off a large ring responsible for East Coast distribution, headed by Israeli traffickers. MDMA is predominantly made outside the country in Europe. It's legal there. It's then smuggled into the United States in different ports of entry and all the traditional means, by commercial aircraft, by FedEx packages, by boat, if you will, by body carry, all sorts of different ways finding its way getting here. And then recently we've seen large seizures of MDMA in Mexico, which, if past be prologue, means that a good trafficker will find a way to be able to bring that in across the southern border at some point.
Today's bust, how is this going to affect the area?
I think this is good for the state of Arizona, definitely good for the city of Phoenix. I feel that this state will be dry for quite a while with MDMA. This organization literally controlled the distribution in Maricopa County and other parts of the state. This was a good hit.
Can I ask you that question? I know this is a federal case involving Mr. Gravano. Served time in prison for it. Under the plea bargain, is he essentially still in a state of probation, or how does that work?
My understanding is that his period of supervised release has terminated, so he is no longer on supervised release. With respect to whatever other agreements he may have with the federal government, I would direct you to the Justice Department.
Are you in consultation with them on this case?
We have been in consultation with them today.
Dan, so that I understand you correctly, then Gravano would essentially have a clean slate in this matter, then? In other words, there is nothing in his agreement with the feds that says you get popped for anything and you're going to get charged.
No, what I said was he's not on supervised release anymore. With respect to the actual contents of his plea agreement, that I would direct you to the Justice Department as to whether they want to take any subsequent action against Gravano. What we have here and what I'm prosecuting is a violation of Arizona law by a person living in Arizona that was affecting thousands of Arizona teenagers.
Business, Alessandro. Actually, Sammy Gravano told the court this morning that this isn't a violent offense, that he should be allowed to bond, and that charges considered minor. What is your reaction?
He's being held on a $5 million cash bond. I think the judge who set the bond gave an appropriate reaction.
Could you tell us exactly in terms of the, who are their main suppliers, and did those supplies come from out of state, or were these drugs cooked up here in Arizona?
I'm going to let Commander Timms take those questions.
Of the investigation that are ongoing, so I'm not free to discuss that aspect, but I think it's safe to say that as far as we know, ecstasy is not or has not been manufactured here to any great quantities in Arizona, but obviously we aren't free to discuss any other aspects of ongoing investigations.
Has he renewed any ties with old mob associates, organized crime figures as part of this distribution?
Not that I'm aware of.
Hey, could you just once repeat again that the hierarchy? Did Gravano sit on top of this, and was he the financier?
Our information showed that Sammy Gravano was the individual who controlled the distribution in this area. That the decisions that were made in the organization were controlled by Gravano, and that Gravano orchestrated the activities. We also know that Mike Papa was an employee of Sammy Gravano's at his company, and believe that that's where the correlation and the relationship exists.
How did that relationship begin? How did Gravano hook up with Papa and vice versa? Do you know how that began?
You know, I don't remember. I've been told, but I don't remember how they hooked up and how long ago or how long they've known each other.
Was it the younger group that sought out Gravano somehow?
Well, I think if I'd rather not comment because I want to make sure I get it right, but Mike Papa and Sammy's son Gerard are about the same age, and I believe that they have contact with each other, and I might be assuming, but I think that's how the correlation is made.
What roles did Gerard and Karen play in
They were all involved in the conspiracy and the distribution, the organization. I can't say that anyone had a specific role. It was a kind of like our law enforcement effort here. We, formed a partnership to go after this gang, and they had a partnership with, each other on how they attacked distributing their ecstasy and controlling their business.
Are the Gravanos still legally married or
I haven't checked legal files, but I believe they're still married.
Anything in separate references from Canadian's arrest?
They were arrested at
Why is this such a big deal, and is there anything, they sort of look like candy, is that part of the danger, and that parents maybe may not even know if...
Well, exactly, and as a parent, when I first saw this, I looked at it when the detectives came back to me from their first night of going out to these rave parties, and I said, these look like sweet tarts. If my kids came home with these, I would never question them. It looks exactly like candy, and it's marketed with, Papa Smurfs and Nike swooshes, and what we found is that they all have their own trademark. They have their own identity. Some are better quality than others. And as a result of that, they look just like candy, and I think that's part of the danger, is that it is a dangerous drug. There have been deaths associated with it. It is a methamphetamine derivative. We do know that it has been laced with LSD, heroin, and other drugs, which do have addictive qualities as well. So they're also, they could be taking heroin with their ecstasy, not realizing that there's the dangers. And then the pure number and volume of people and the youth out there that were using it, literally it would be at an epidemic level.
So laced with LSD and heroin, you're talking about pills that you found here that you think are involved in this ring?
Yes, pills that we found had traces of other drugs in them in the quantified analysis.
Can I ask one last question? Gravano, when we first heard this, a lot of people thought, well, that was really kind of stupid of him. Did he feel comfortable at all because he sort of knew the system and stuff, or was it just stupid? I don't know.
I don't know. I think he was kind of surprised today. I don't think that he, knew what was happening. I have no idea what was going on in his mind and what he thought, and as far as that goes.
Can you talk to us about the alleged name?
He did have 3 guns in his apartment. Yes, he did.
But he wasn't on his person.
Right. He was woke up and there was a gun in a night table next to his bed.
Where was that apartment? Do you have an address for that? What are they facing?
Yeah, they're being held on a charge of conspiracy to distribute dangerous narcotics, which is a Class 2 felony in Arizona. The maximum penalty with no priors is up to 12.5 years. Obviously, some of these individuals have priors, and depending on that, it could go up as high as 35 years. But again, this is just the initial charge. We anticipate we will be filing a complaint on Monday, and then depending on our final analysis of all the evidence that's been seized, there will be perhaps additional charges
Being incarcerated right now.
My understanding is, and the commander can correct me, but my understanding is that the sheriff was notified that he would have an inmate who may have some special security needs, and that's the responsibility of the sheriff to make sure he gets those.
Specifically, who was arrested and his family, and also was his brother or son-in-law arrested? Gravano?
Yes. Karen